Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to learn T.S. Eliot's essay Tradition and the Individual Talent and the major critical concepts introduced by him. T.S. Eliot was an American English poet, playwright, editor, and literary critic. He was a pioneer of the modernist movement in literature. Eliot's description of himself in his preface to For Lancelot Andrews, a classicist in literature, a royalist in politics, and an Anglo Catholic in religion, sets the tone for his lifelong commitment to criticism. His 500 essays, published as reviews and articles, have exerted a tremendous influence on the critical temper of the 20th century. Eliot's critical works include such books as The Sacred Wood, Homage to John Dryden, For Lancelot Andrews, Selected Essays, The Use of Poetry and the Use of Criticism, Elizabethan Essays, and Essays Ancient and Modern. The essay Tradition and the Individual Talent was published in the journal The Egoist in 1919. It is considered to be the unofficial manifesto of T.S. Eliot's critical creed. It contains all those principles which are the basis of his subsequent criticism. The essay is divided into three parts. 1. Eliot's concept of tradition. 2. His theory of the impersonality of poetry. And the third part is a summing up. Eliot begins the essay by pointing out that the word tradition is a word that is disagreeable to the English who praise a poet for those aspects of his work which are individual and original. According to Eliot, this undue stress on individuality shows that the English have an uncritical mind. The best and the most individual part of a poet's work is that which shows the maximum influence of the writers of the past. To quote his own words, not only the best, but the most individual parts of his work may be those in which the dead poets, his ancestors, assert their immortality most vigorously. Now let's see what does he mean by tradition. Tradition does not mean a blind adherence to or slavish imitation of the ways of the previous generations. For Eliot, tradition is a matter of much wider significance. Tradition, in the true sense of the term, cannot be inherited. It can only be obtained by hard labor. This labor is the labor of knowing the past writers. It is the critical labor of sifting the good from the bad and of knowing what is good and useful. Tradition can be obtained only by those who have the historical sense. What is historical sense? The historical sense involves a perception not only of the pastness of the past but also of its presence. The historical sense compels a man to write not merely with his own generation in his bones, but with a feeling that the whole of the literature of Europe, from Homer down to his own day, including the literature of his own country, forms one continuous literary tradition. He realizes that the past exists in the present and that the past and the present form one simultaneous order. This historical sense is the sense of the timeless and the temporal, as well as of the timeless and the temporal together. It is this historical sense which makes a writer traditional. A writer with a sense of tradition is fully conscious of his own generation, of his place in the present, but he is also acutely conscious of his relationship with the writers of the past. In brief, the sense of tradition implies a recognition of the continuity of literature. a critical judgment as to which of the writers of the past continue to be significant in the present. A knowledge of these significant writers obtained through effort. Tradition represents the accumulated wisdom and experience of ages, and so its knowledge is essential for a good writer. Eliot further points out the connection between the present and the past. He says that no writer has his value and significance in isolation. The work of a poet in the present is to be compared and contrasted with works of the past and judged by the standards of the past. Such comparison and contrast is essential for estimating the real worth and significance of a new writer and his work. Eliot's conception of tradition is a dynamic one. According to his view, tradition is not anything fixed and static. It is constantly changing, growing, and becoming different from what it is. A writer in the present must seek guidance from the past. He must conform to the literary tradition. But just as the past directs and guides the present, so the present alters and modifies the past. When a new work of art is created, if it is really new and original, the whole literary tradition is modified, though ever so slightly. The relationship between the past and the present is not one sided, it is a reciprocal relationship. The past directs and presents and the past directs the present and is itself modified and altered by the present. Every great poet, like Virgil, Dante, or Shakespeare, has added something to the literary tradition out of which the future poetry will be written. We'll continue in the next video. Thank you for watching.